He promised to crush China with tariffs. But less than a month later, US factories began slowing down, jets were grounded, and America's supply chain cracked. Why? Because China didn't need to retaliate with more tariffs. They just flipped the switch on the one thing the US can't live without: rare earth minerals. This wasn't just a trade war, it was economic warfare without bullets. And now, the same president who vowed to dominate China is on television praising talks with President Xi, scrambling to undo the damage and selling a deal that may not even exist. On April 4th, China halted exports of 6 critical heavy rare earth elements, materials essential to the production of US fighter jets, electric vehicles, missile systems, and even smartphones. By mid-May, Ford had shut down production lines, while GM and Stellantis reported EV delays. Bloomberg reported a sharp drop in US industrial production, the worst since the post-COVID recovery, while producer prices rose sharply due to raw material shortages. Behind closed doors, US officials admitted the situation was serious. Kevin Hassett of the National Economic Council said, "We need those rare earths flowing like before, but all we've got is a phone call and a photo op." The core problem is leverage. China controls more than 90% of the world's rare earth supply. These minerals are critical for neodymium magnets used in EV motors, jet engines, missile guidance systems, and high-tech devices. The US imports nearly all of its neodymium and dysprosium from China and has no commercial-scale domestic refining capacity for these materials. When China cut off the flow, the ripple effect was immediate. Tesla rerouted supply chains to Malaysia at a 32% cost increase. Ford spent $12 million on emergency air shipments from Australia. Small manufacturers were hit hardest, with 64% reporting shortages in May. HSBC economists estimated that the rare earth shortage alone could shave 0.6% off US GDP by Q3. Trump tried to turn the situation around with the so-called Geneva Truce on May 11th, announcing a 90-day tariff pause and suggesting a big new deal was coming. But just 2 days later, the Commerce Department reignited tensions by warning global firms that Huawei's AI chips could violate US export rules. China didn't respond with threats. They simply didn't reopen the mineral supply. Since April, China has only issued 5 rare earth export licenses worldwide, 3 of them to US defense-linked companies, and all only after direct appeals from GM, Ford, and Lockheed Martin. Every shipment now depends on case-by-case approval from Beijing, tied to shifting definitions of national security. China's strategy is simple but effective. While the US made noise with tariffs, China created silent choke points. Rare earth magnet prices surged 27% in May alone. The Wall Street Journal reported delays at Boeing and a quiet Pentagon warning about operational risks due to mineral shortages. As former US Ambassador to China Gary Locke put it, "We handed Beijing leverage, and they're using it with surgical precision." Meanwhile, China's trade surplus with the US rose to $43.1 billion in May 2025, up from the previous month, despite tech tensions and supply disruptions. With the Geneva Truce expiring August 9th, time is running out. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent admitted that major enforcement issues remain unresolved. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick confirmed only 3 rare earth licenses had been issued by early June, all tied to automakers. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce estimates that if tariffs are reinstated at 145%, American importers could face $18.2 billion in additional costs in Q4. The American Automotive Policy Council warns that magnet shortages could lead to 6 to 9 week delays for Ford, GM, and Stellantis. And Oxford Economics projects that if no deal is reached, the U.S. could take a 0.9% GDP hit by year's end. What Trump calls a deal is, in reality, a fragile and unenforceable ceasefire. China's vice premier has yet to commit to extending the export window. Every shipment remains under strict review. Beijing prioritizes civilian uses over military supply chains, causing significant slowdowns in U.S. defense operations. And with global shipping rates up 14% since early May, costs are rising fast. While Trump makes optimistic public remarks, the Wall Street Journal confirms that only 5 rare earth shipments have been approved since May, all under intense scrutiny. The truth is, China never needed more tariffs or threats. They just needed patience and control of the one thing America underestimated. And now, with the US scrambling for alternatives that don't exist, Beijing still holds the trump card. This isn't just about minerals, it's about control, and the August deadline will show who really has it. Thanks for watching. If this breakdown helped you understand what's really happening behind the scenes, hit that like button and subscribe.